It was one of those nights when the world feels just a little too quiet, as if nature itself is holding its breath. Out here on our family farm at the edge of the forest, silence never meant peace. Silence meant something was wrong. I grew up on this land. 20 acres of rolling fields, a weathered red barn, a chicken coop that smelled of straw and feathers, and the pasture where our cattle grazed. Most nights I found comfort in the usual sounds: cows shifting, crickets singing, the distant rustle of wind through the tall grass. But that night, none of it was there. It was around midnight when I woke up. At first I thought it was a dream. The dogs were growling, low and sharp, like they sensed something moving close. I sat up in bed, listening. My younger brother, Danny, was asleep in the room across the hall. I didn't want to wake him yet, not until I was sure. I pulled on my boots and stepped onto the porch. The moon was bright enough to paint the fields in silver, but the woods beyond were a solid black wall. That's when I heard it. The sound of wood splintering, a deep crack echoing from the direction of the barn. My heart hammered. Something was out there. Probably just a deer, I whispered to myself, though even as I said it, I didn't believe it. The growling grew louder. Our shepherd, Rex, stood stiff, fur bristling, his eyes locked on the barn. Then came another sound. An awful, guttural roar that froze me where I stood. I'd heard coyotes before, even a mountain lion once. But this was different. It was a bear. I'd never seen one so close to the farm, though neighbors had told stories. Tracks near the river, overturned trash bins, missing goats. But now the stories were standing in my backyard, tearing through my barn door. "Danny!" I shouted, finally breaking the silence. My brother stumbled out onto the porch, rubbing his eyes. "What is it?" he asked. "It's a bear at the barn." He went pale. We both knew what was inside: feed, tools, and worse, the chickens. Our family relied on them for eggs and meat. Losing them would hurt us badly. Without thinking, I grabbed the old shotgun that hung by the door. My hands shook as I checked the shells. I didn't want to shoot unless I had no choice, but I also couldn't stand by and let the bear destroy everything. We crept toward the barn, hearts pounding, the crunch of gravel under our boots sounding far too loud. The smell hit us first. Musky, wild, mixed with the sharp stench of fear from the animals inside. The chickens were in chaos, feathers flying, clucks turning into panicked screams. The door was half shattered, swinging on one hinge. Inside, I caught a glimpse of massive fur, claws tearing at a crate. The bear was huge, easily 7 feet tall if it stood upright, shoulders broad enough to block the lantern light. Danny voiced, "Oh my God." I raised the shotgun, but my hands trembled. I didn't want to shoot. I just wanted it gone. "Hey!" I yelled, my voice cracking. "Get out of here!" For a moment, the bear froze, its eyes turning toward me. I felt like prey caught in the sights of a predator. Then it roared, a sound that shook the air, and lunged forward, smashing through the rest of the door. "Run!" I shouted. We bolted back toward the house, Rex barking furiously at our side. The ground seemed to shake with every step of the bear's charge. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My only thought was reaching the porch, the one place that suddenly felt like safety. We stumbled inside and slammed the deadbolt. The bear hit the side of the house a second later, the impact rattling the windows. Our mother came rushing down the stairs, her face pale with panic. "What's happening?" "It's a bear," Danny gasped. "It followed us." I tried to catch my breath.
For a moment, the three of us just stood there, listening to the heavy breathing outside, the scraping of claws against the siding. It was trying to get in. My mother grabbed the phone and called the sheriff, her hand shaking so badly she almost dropped it. I stood at the window, shotgun still clutched in my hands, watching the shadow move past the glass. The bear was circling, searching for another way inside. That night, everything changed. Our quiet farm, the place we thought was safe, the place we had worked and bled for, was no longer just ours. The forest had come to claim it back, and it came with teeth and claws. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over.
The minutes crawled by like hours. Every sound seemed magnified. The creak of the old floorboards under our feet, the frantic clucking of the chickens still trapped in the barn, the steady pounding of my own heart in my ears. Outside, the bear circled, its heavy footsteps crunching in the gravel, its breath huffing against the siding of the house. I kept the shotgun raised, though I knew one blast through the window wouldn't stop something that big unless I got impossibly lucky. My palms were slick with sweat. Danny hovered close behind me, his face pale, his eyes wide. Our mother stayed by the phone, whispering into it, begging the sheriff's office to send someone fast. They said they're on their way, she told us, her voice trembling. But it could take 20 minutes. 20 minutes. It might as well have been 20 years. The bear slammed into the back door with such force that the frame shook. Rex barked furiously, teeth bared, but I pulled him back before he threw himself at the wood. Another crash followed, and this time I saw the hinges strain. Hold it together, I whispered to myself. Just hold it together. Then, without warning, the noise stopped. The heavy breathing, the scraping claws, all of it vanished. The silence returned even heavier than before. Danny's voice cracked as he whispered, "Do you think it's gone?" I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped closer to the window, careful not to let the floor creak too loudly. My eyes scanned the yard. The barn door hung broken, feathers drifting through the air like snow. But the bear, it was nowhere in sight. That was worse than seeing it. I turned back. Don't relax. It's still out there. We huddled together in the living room, the lantern casting long shadows against the walls. Time blurred. 10 minutes? 15? Every second without noise stretched into an eternity. Just as I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it had left, a crash erupted upstairs. My blood turned to ice. Something, no, someone was up there. The bear had found a way into the attic. Danny shouted, "It's inside!" And for a moment I thought he might be right. But then I remembered the attic window, old and half-rotted, easy to break through if something heavy enough leaned against it. I aimed the shotgun upward, though I knew it wouldn't matter if the bear dropped through the ceiling. We stood frozen, waiting. The thumping above us was slow, deliberate. Boards groaned under the weight of something massive. "Mom," I hissed, "get outside, run to the truck." But she shook her head violently. "I'm not leaving you." Another crash. Dust drifted down from the ceiling, stinging my eyes. The sound of claws scraping wood followed, and then silence again. My chest ached from holding my breath. Finally, after what felt like forever, the footsteps retreated. The sound moved across the roof, toward the back of the house. Then nothing. I lowered the shotgun slowly, my arms numb.
Danny collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "We're dead. We're so dead." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, but my throat was dry. The truth was, I wasn't sure. At last, headlights appeared at the end of the road. Relief hit me so hard I nearly cried. The sheriff's cruiser rolled up, followed by a pickup with 2 deputies inside. They came armed with rifles and spotlights, voices steady as they called out for us to stay put. We ran to the porch as they fanned out across the yard. Beams of light cut through the darkness, catching the broken barn door, the scattered feathers. "Bear's been through here, all right," one of the deputies muttered. The sheriff himself, a broad-shouldered man with a calm but serious expression, approached us. "Everybody safe?" "For now," I said, my voice cracking. "But it's still out there. I heard it on the roof." His gaze shifted toward the woods. "Bears don't usually act like this. If it's this aggressive, it's dangerous." No kidding, I thought bitterly. For the next hour, they scoured the property. We followed at a distance, flashlights in hand. The night air smelled of damp earth and blood. Near the barn, one of the deputies knelt and examined deep gouges in the wood. "Big male," he said grimly, "and hungry." The chickens, half of them were gone, the rest huddled in corners, trembling, their feathers ragged. We managed to herd them back into what was left of the coop, but the damage was done. I tried to calm down, but the image of the bear on our roof wouldn't leave my mind. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound made me flinch. The deputies promised to stay until dawn, patrolling the edge of the property, but I knew the truth. The bear had tested us, and it would be back. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay awake on the couch, shotgun propped against the wall, listening to the steady tick of the clock. Danny dozed off eventually, his face still pale, but I couldn't let myself drift off, not when the memory of that roar echoed in my skull. When the first hint of dawn broke, painting the sky in pale orange, the deputies packed up. "We'll notify Fish and Wildlife. They'll try to trap it, maybe relocate it. Until then, keep your animals inside. Keep doors locked." I nodded, but inside, dread gnawed at me. Relocate it? That bear wasn't just passing through. It had tasted our farm. It knew where the food was, and it wasn't going to stop. As the cruisers rolled away, the silence returned once more. Only this time, it wasn't just the quiet of mourning. It was the silence of something waiting. And I had the sickening feeling that tonight would be even worse.
The day crawled by with an uneasiness that clung to everything we did. We fixed what we could, the broken barn door, the shattered crates, but no repair could erase the claw marks carved deep into the wood. They stood as a reminder, like scars across the farm itself. Danny barely spoke. He carried a hammer in his hand as we worked, but his eyes kept drifting to the woods, as though the bear might emerge any second. Mom tried to act normal, cooking breakfast, humming softly, but her hands shook whenever she set a pan down. None of us believed the calm would last. By sunset, the air felt heavy, like the weight before a storm. I walked the fence line with Rex at my side, the shotgun slung across my shoulder. Every rustle in the tall grass made me tense. The forest loomed darker than usual, shadows thickening as night crept closer. "Do you think it'll come back?" Danny finally asked as he followed me. His voice cracked. I didn't want to answer, but lying seemed cruel.
Yeah, I think it will. When the last of the light drained from the sky, we gathered in the house. We locked the doors, pulled curtains tight, and lit only a single lantern. The deputies weren't coming back. They had other calls, other emergencies. We were on our own. The waiting was the worst part. Every tick of the clock felt like a hammer on my nerves. Rex paced restlessly, ears pricked, growling at shadows that weren't there. My stomach churned, and I caught myself gripping the shotgun so tightly my knuckles ached. Then, sometime after midnight, the sound returned. A low, guttural growl rolled across the yard, so deep I felt it in my chest. Danny froze beside me, his eyes wide with fear. Rex barked once, sharp and furious. The bear was back. This time it didn't circle. It came straight for the house. The front porch groaned under its weight as it hauled itself up. The boards cracked. Then the claws scraped against the door, slow and deliberate, as if it knew exactly where we were. Mom whispered a prayer under her breath, clutching Danny's shoulder. My own breath came fast and shallow. I raised the shotgun, staring at the door as the wood began to splinter. With a deafening crack, the bear shoved its massive head through, boards snapping like twigs. Its eyes glowed in the lantern light, its jaws dripping with saliva. The roar that followed rattled the very walls. "Back!" I shouted, pushing Danny and Mom behind me. I fired. The blast lit the room, the shot tearing into the bear's shoulder. It bellowed in pain, jerking back, but it didn't run. It came harder, slamming against the door until the frame gave way. Wood exploded inward, shards flying across the room. The beast was inside. Rex hurled himself at it, teeth snapping. The bear swung a massive paw, sending him skidding across the floor, yelping but alive. My heart lurched. I couldn't lose him, too. The bear advanced, filling the living room with its size. I fired again, the recoil slamming into my shoulder. Another wound opened in its chest, blood spraying across the floorboards, but still it moved forward, roaring, relentless. Danny grabbed a fireplace poker and swung with all his strength, striking its muzzle. The bear reeled for a split second, enough for me to reload. My hands shook, fumbling with the shells. Come on, I muttered, slamming the cartridge home. The bear lunged. I raised the shotgun and pulled the trigger. The blast caught it under the jaw, the force knocking it back against the wall. It staggered, roaring one final time, then collapsed in a heap, shaking the floorboards beneath us. Silence followed, thick, suffocating silence. For a long moment, none of us moved. My chest heaved, the shotgun trembling in my hands. Danny's face was white, his knuckles raw from gripping the poker. Mom sobbed quietly, covering her mouth. Finally, I stepped closer, keeping the gun trained. The bear's chest no longer rose and fell. Its eyes, once burning with hunger, were now dull and lifeless. It was over. The house reeked of blood and gunpowder. Rex limped back to us, pressing his muzzle against my leg. I dropped to my knees, burying my face in his fur, my whole body shaking with relief. When the sheriff arrived an hour later, he stared at the scene with grim eyes. "He did what you had to do," he said. "That bear wouldn't have stopped." He was right. Deep down, I knew that. Still, I couldn't shake the weight of it. The image of its buys, the sound of its roar. It would never leave me. Our farm survived. The barn could be fixed, the chickens replaced, the doors rebuilt. But something inside us had changed forever. The forest had tested us, and we had stood our ground. And as I looked out at the dark line of trees beyond the fields, I knew one thing for certain. This land wasn't just ours. It never had been. It belonged to everything that lived out there too, and sometimes it came to remind us.
Thanks for watching. Don't miss the next story.